Hi. Alright, hello guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're brand new here, my name is Nikki and this is my book nook, and this is what I'm currently working with. I have been in such a weird reading slump the last month. Honestly, like a reading funk, if you will. Romance is just not doing it for me. It's kind of depressing me. Smut is just like running together. Like I am reading the most vile shit and feeling nothing. Nothing has really held my attention recently. The only thing that I've been able to like manage to kind of get through, enjoy, you know, stay interested in is thrillers. Thrillers, mysteries, suspense novels. They have been keeping me alive when it comes to my like reading situation in the last month. And you know, I've read several that I liked, but last night I feel like I finally have been cured of my reading slump. I sat in one singular sitting on this couch and binged, absolutely devoured The Housemaid by Freida McFadden. I have seen this book everywhere. It is so popular. Like Freida McFadden in general, I know she's kind of like the queen of KU thrillers, and I don't know why it took me so long to read this book. I think honestly the cover just like didn't really draw me in. I was just like, I don't know if it's the vibe. Let me tell you, it was in fact the vibe. I started it, couldn't put it down. From the very first page, I was so sucked in. I had to know what was gonna happen. There were so many plot twists throughout this. Essentially, what it was about is this woman that becomes a housemaid. She has been in prison for several years now and has just gotten out and has really been struggling to find a job. She's at a point now where she's living out of her car and she's really desperate. So she comes across this ad for this family that needs a live-in housemaid, and that's a really good deal for her because obviously she doesn't currently have a place to live. So puts on her best little outfit, goes to this interview. You know, it's a very wealthy family, a very nice house, and she puts on her best face and hopes that she gets it, doesn't think she's going to, but she ends up obviously getting the job. So she comes to work for this family. They're called the Winchester family, and pretty quickly things just start to get a little weird. Like the interview seemed amazing, everything seemed picturesque, but right away, just the wife especially is just a little bit, something's off with her. She's a little off her rocker. There were so many things throughout this book where I felt so gaslit. I was like, did she say that or did she not say that? Because she would always accuse, you know, the maid of saying like, I told you this, or you're not supposed to do this, or why did you do this? And I just like never knew what was real or who to believe. And every time I thought I had it figured out, I was wrong. There was literally a twist within a twist within a twist, all the way to like a final twist at the very end. And I just was mind blown. Like this book was just so gripping, so good. Like it was a true psychological thriller, and I have not felt that way about a book, honestly, since I read Verity by Colleen Hoover years ago. Like that was really the first and only thriller book that I've read that just like really messed with my head, like really had me scared of, you know, one of the characters. And in this book, honestly, like every member of the family that she was working for kind of scared the shit out of me at one point or another. Like I was just like, oh my God, you need to get out of this house. Like what is happening? What is like the real story here? I never knew. So I loved it. I loved it so much, and I'm going to continue to ride this wave. So I just am gonna start reading a bunch of Freida McFadden books. I don't totally know what this video is gonna be. Her books are pretty short, you know, they're about 300 pages. And like I said, I sat through The Housemaid in one sitting last night. I read it in one day. So I just thought it would be fun to do like a chatty little reading vlog where I read maybe like 5 of her books. Like that's literally where I'm at. Like nothing else sounds good to me right now. And there are several of her books that I've like had in the back of my mind that I've seen people talk about that I've wanted to read. And now that I loved The Housemaid so much, I'm like, I'm just gonna roll with this. I'm just gonna read some Freida McFadden books. So thought we'd do a little reading vlog, but I'm gonna keep it spoiler free. I just kind of want to like read a couple of these books, generally like tell you what they're about, give you my reactions throughout without giving away what's happening. And then I feel like at the end, I'll kind of like rank the ones that I've read. I don't know, I'm just vibing. I just thought this would be kind of fun. But yeah, I just want to dive into another Freida McFadden book. So The Housemaid actually has a sequel called The Housemaid's Secret, I believe. I've heard that one is really good as well, but I just don't quite want to dive into that one just yet. I kind of want to try something new, and I feel like maybe in a few months I'll go back and read that one because I want to switch up the vibe. She has so many different books, so many different styles of books. So I got on TikTok and I watched a bunch of videos last night of people that have read all of her books, like ranking them, and I was kind of trying to decide what stuck out to me. So there's a few, but the one I want to start with first is called Ward D. It's about like a psychiatric ward, facility, whatever. I was really not trying to get any spoilers on these. Like, I honestly want to go into them pretty blind. So I was kind of like scrolling through TikTok just trying to get like the basic gist, and then I was like skipping to the next video. So this one just piqued my interest, something about it. I was like, I want to start this one next. So I'm gonna start this one, and then we'll just see where we go from there. So I'm gonna start it, and once I have like a more, you know, a better idea of what it's about, I will come back on and talk to you guys about it a little bit more. But yeah, I just thought this would be a fun little switch up of my normal type of videos. And I guess I'm a thriller reader now, so I'm just gonna get into it. Okay, so I'm about 25% into Ward D, and I mean, just like The Housemaid, this book drew me right in. I feel like I am flying through it. I honestly didn't even realize I was that far in until I like glanced down at the percentage, and I was like, oh my gosh, need to stop and update you guys. So pretty much this story follows this girl named Amy. She is a medical student, and at the start of the story, we learn right away that you know, as part of being a medical student, you have to go and do hospital hours in different sort of like departments, I guess. I think to kind of figure out like your specialty, what you want to do, whatever. And so she's been assigned on this day to finally spend time in Ward D, which is a psychiatric ward. So she's very nervous about it because when you do a shift in Ward D, you actually go in there and you stay locked in essentially overnight. This is like a very high security psychiatric ward with like just patients that need to be contained and sort of controlled. So you're kind of kept behind a locked door. There is a code on the door to get out, but that is the only way to get out. You can't just walk out. So she has a lot of anxiety around going into this ward because it's just, you know, it's not a place she really wants to be. And you can tell there's also like something else going on with it. You do kind of come to find out that she did have a friend in high school, and that friend kind of spent some time in and out of this psychiatric ward. And you know, as you get introduced to the story, you end up jumping back to the past, and you start getting like a second sort of timeline that happened 8 years ago, and we do actually get to meet that friend of hers. Her name is Jade, and yeah, you can tell that there are some weird things with Jade, but also I feel like Freida McFadden is just really good at making you question everything, because she, you know, our narrator lets us know that Jade kind of always was a little bit strange, a little bit odd. Her home life was just all over the place, but that also Amy, the narrator, it seems that she has also had some issues of her own, and that she keeps saying, you know, Jade was in the psychiatric ward, but if you talk to Jade, she would say that Amy should have been there. So I don't really know. It's kind of one of those things where you don't really know what's going on yet. You're kind of getting little pieces and figuring it out. Lots of little creepy things so far, like you're just being introduced to everything, some of the patients and stuff. It's very early in the night so far, so you're just kind of seeing the patients and all over their different quirks and different things that are sort of, you know, different conditions that they have, whatever it might be. And I think you can tell, like it keeps saying, okay, 12 hours left, 10 hours left, whatever. So I think and have a feeling as we get further into the night, things are gonna get a little bit crazier. And we've just actually learned right where I stopped that Jade is actually in this psychiatric ward once again. Amy wasn't sure. She knew that she had been in and out of it. This hospital is like in their hometown where they've grown up. And so she knew she'd been in and out of it, but she hasn't had contact with her in years. So, you know, it was kind of in the back of her mind, but she wasn't sure. And sure enough, Jade is actually here currently. And, you know, saying lots of ominous things to her, like, here you are, sure enough, you became a med student like you always wanted. You know, like you could tell there's something between them. So I'm very interested to see, you know, that past timeline play out and figure out what happened. Something about Amy is that in that past timeline, there's like this little girl that she sees all the time that nobody else seems to be able to see but her, and little children, immediately I'm freaked out and scared. So I'm interested to see what comes out of that. But yeah, that's kind of the basic sort of synopsis where we're at. I just think things are about to get a whole lot creepier, and I'm excited to see it play out. Also, Amy is here, and there is another medical student that is supposed to be on with her, and it was supposed to be someone else, but they had to swap their time with another person, and that person is actually Amy's ex-boyfriend. So she is locked in this ward essentially with him, who is not someone she necessarily wants to spend a whole lot of time with. So yeah, just lots of moving pieces, lots of factors. So definitely interested to see where it goes. I feel like at this point I won't say too much more like specifically, because don't want to give spoilers, but that's the gist. I'll let you guys know more, you know, how I'm feeling once we get a little further into the night. Okay, I am 70% in, and once again, I had to literally stop myself because I'm just gonna sit here and read this entire thing in one sitting because I just am on the edge of my seat and I have to know what is going to happen. The plot continues. Don't get upset. He gets mad when I try to film with him. I think I'm too loud next to his ear. I thought that was gonna be cute, but you know. You're so mistreated, you poor thing. Anyways, plot continues to thicken, and I love stories when you just like don't know who to trust. You don't know, you know, who's the bad guy. And like the narrator, I love when you have, there's like a term for that, like an unreliable narrator. I kind of love that in stories, and the present day is just getting weirder and weirder. In the psych ward, there are just so many different patients that have lots of different quirks and things about them. And I didn't mention this before, but there are two sort of like seclusion, solitary confinement rooms within the ward that have like an extra lock on them. And that just adds a whole another element. Like there's a certain patient that just got sent to the ward that is in like the highest of security that's about to be transferred elsewhere but needs to like stay here for the night, and he's very much talked about but you haven't seen him yet, and it's just getting like creepier and creepier. And of course a lot of these patients have, you know, schizophrenia, like different sort of disorders, whatever, and so they say a lot of things but you don't know whether to trust them or if they're having delusions or if what they're seeing is real. And the narrator herself, you just like, so much is happening. And then the past timeline as well, like seeing what she went through with her friend, and then the friend now present day, just very creepy, like lots of things going on. And I don't know where it's gonna go. I think there's like a million possibilities, but I am for sure gonna finish this right now. I think I have like 40 minutes left of it, so we'll see. Okay guys, I just finished Ward D. Let me just say, when I figured out what was going on, because I was so confused, genuinely, I was like, this can go one of 25 ways. I have no clear picture of what's gonna happen here. And then one singular sentence was uttered and my jaw hit the floor because it was not even remotely one of the possibilities in my head. And I just like sat there staring at my Kindle and was like, I need a minute. Totally shocked me. But I will say, I mean, it was very, very good for sure. But I kind of prefer in kind of thriller mystery stories to be kind of shown things rather than told them. And it kind of got to be where, you know, there were a few pages of just explaining like, this is what happened and this is what was going on and blah, blah, blah. And for some reason to me, like that just, I don't want to say it's lazy, but sometimes it just feels a little like, oh, okay. Like, I don't know. I prefer to kind of see a flashback or to see events kind of play out rather than just like being told like, you should have known this and this is what was happening and you were totally unaware, ha ha ha. It just feels like a cheesy scene in like a villain movie or something sometimes, but still, regardless, very good. And then at the end, like even in the epilogue, there was still a little twist where I was like, oh, it definitely kind of had this open ending where you were like, oh my gosh. It was very good. I was totally impressed with it. I mean, these books, again, are just so gripping and so hard to put down. And they're just the perfect length. They're right at like 300 pages. So you just fly through them. And every chapter, I swear, every chapter takes like 2 minutes to read, maybe 3. Like, they're only a few pages. And so I just feel like when chapters are short, it is so easy to just like finish a book so fast, because you just say like, okay, just one more chapter, one more chapter. Even like I wanted to get up and get a drink, but I'm like, I'll just read one more chapter. But then you finish it in like 1 minute, and every chapter kind of has like a little bit of cliffhanger. So you're like, okay, I'll just read one more. And then before you know it, you read the whole friggin' book in one day, which is what happened. So there's so many options to pick from next. I honestly feel like I'm gonna have to make a second one of these videos, because I mean, Freida McFadden has so many books, and I think I only want to put like 5 in this video or it'll just get way too long. But I'm gonna read Never Lie next, because this is one that I've seen a lot of people talk about, and I made a TikTok reviewing The Housemaid, and I had a couple people comment being like, oh my gosh, you have to read Never Lie next, like it is so good. So gonna dive into this for sure. The only thing I know about it is I think it also has something to do with like a psychiatrist or psychiatry stuff. So gonna continue the same vibes, but yeah, same sort of thing. I will get into it probably 25% or so, and then come back to you guys with the basic sort of synopsis and what's going on. I am honestly gonna start it right now, even though it is like 12:30 in the morning, but gotta do what you gotta do. I want to start it. I'm just gonna ride this wave. I'm having so much fun. Okay, so I'm about a third of the way through Never Lie, and this one is so interesting, so different than the other ones that I've read so far. Pretty much, it's about this married couple. They've just kind of recently gotten married in the last few months, and they are looking for their first home together. And so they've been looking at different properties with this realtor, and now they are going to look at this new home that is kind of out in the middle of nowhere, in the woods a little bit. They're driving there, and as they're driving, a winter storm is blowing through. It's pretty much a blizzard, honestly, and they kind of barely get there, and they're like, this is really far out there. And once they pull up to the house, they're like, okay, but it's worth it because it's beautiful. It's this huge like mansion sort of thing, and they see a light on upstairs, so they're like, okay, our realtor must already be inside. They go to the front door, it's open, they let themselves in, but you know, upon looking in the house, getting in there, they realize that nobody else is there. Their realtor is not there, and at this point now, the snow is really coming down hard, like their car is totally covered, and so they think, okay, our realtor must have gotten stuck in this storm. She probably couldn't make it here, and we certainly can't drive out of here now. I guess we're kind of stuck here until we, you know, until the snow lets up, pretty much. So they learned shortly after getting there that this home actually belonged to this really famous psychiatrist who was also an author. She had this book, you know, come out that basically everybody read, that was super popular, and it was kind of a scandal because she just up and vanished like a few years ago. Nobody knows what happened to her. It's kind of like assumed she was murdered, but nobody really knows. And so they are staying there, and kind of like, they basically decide they're gonna stay there for the night, but things are just kind of like odd. This is supposed to be an abandoned home, but the wife is kind of just like seeing things that makes it seem like they're not alone there, like seeing random footprints. Things kind of are moving throughout the house. There's groceries in the fridge that are still not expired. It's just not making a lot of sense. And kind of shortly after getting there and looking around, she ends up coming across the psychiatrist's office. And in this office, she has all of these tapes from these different sessions that she recorded with different patients. And so she starts kind of like listening to these different tapes. And I guess it's gonna kind of reveal maybe what happened to her and how she went missing. I have to say, how it is right now, I think I know what's going on, and I think it seems obvious, but it seems a little too obvious, which tells me that's probably not what's going on. So I'm definitely gonna hold my judgment because truly right now I'm like, okay, surely this has to be it. Like, I'm seeing the connection here. It has to be this, but I just have a feeling it will not be that. So holding my breath. It's definitely super creepy. I feel very like claustrophobic reading it because they're definitely stuck inside this house. It's not their home. The psychiatrist has like this portrait of her that is hanging above the fireplace that is just like super creepy. It feels like I'm in like a scary movie reading it. So very interested to see where it goes. It very much is kind of reminding me of Verity a little bit, just because it's like stuck in the house and almost like reading the manuscript, except it's listening to the tapes. I'm very intrigued to see where it goes, so I'm gonna keep reading. Okay, hello guys. My dishwasher and washing machine are going on in the background, so I'm sorry if you can hear that. Also, this lighting, it is like golden hour right now coming through my blinds, but anyways, wanted to check in because I finished Never Lie last night, and I mean, sure enough, I completely thought it was one thing. Freida, we're on a first name basis, had me completely fooled. I mean, I just took all the bait. I was looking in one direction the whole time. I started to think, I was like, okay, I've read multiple of her books in a row. Am I just like becoming smarter? Am I catching on to her? Am I able to like anticipate what she's doing? No, it was too good to be true. Of course, I had no idea what was going on. It was just so funny. It was so easy to think it was one thing, but then when you realized it was another, it was just like jaw on the floor moment. And I just love the way that Freida ends her books, because it's like you get a big plot twist always, and then like everything's revealed and you're kind of sitting there like, oh my gosh, that was so crazy, just thinking like, okay, epilogue, we're just gonna like tie everything up in a bow. But then she always leaves you with like one final sentence that has you like, oh, is it not over? Like, what is gonna happen now? She just leaves it kind of open-ended, and I just love that so much. So definitely really liked this one. I loved the setting of them being like trapped in this house where, you know, it's a dead woman's house supposedly, or a woman that's gone missing, like stuck in their house, feeling like they're not alone. The whole setting of it was just so creepy and eerie, and I really like thought the concept was just very interesting. Really liked it. So yeah, I'm gonna go on to the Inmate next. I feel like this is the one that has been the most recommended to me aside from the Housemaid. So I know it takes place in a jail of some sort, obviously, because of like the title and the cover and everything. But yeah, going to jump into it right now, and once again, I'll let you know my thoughts as I get a little bit in. Okay guys, wanted to check in on the Inmate. I'm a little over a quarter of the way through, and this one is definitely like a different vibe than the other ones that I've read so far. Pretty much it follows this woman that is a single mom. Her parents have recently passed away, and they left their home behind to her, so she's moving back to her hometown to move into that house. And she is a nurse practitioner, so she's been searching for a job and has been like having difficulty finding a job. So she ends up finding an open position at this high security prison, and it's the first place that has offered her a job in like a month, and she kind of desperately needs it at this point, so she takes it. And the only thing is she happens to know somebody that is in this prison, and it just so happens to be the her ex-boyfriend and the father of her child, and he is in this prison because he tried to murder her like 10 years ago. So definitely has some of the similarities of like all the ones we've read so far, where, you know, she works in this prison. It's got some like claustrophobic aspects to it, where she's got to go through like multiple levels of security to get back to her little nurse's office. And, you know, she's dealing with top criminals. Most of the people in this prison are like serving life sentences. They're murderers or like major drug lords, whatever. It gets a high security kind of place. So we're seeing the present day storyline. At this point, she's like come face to face with the ex-boyfriend. He doesn't know that they have a kid together, so that's kind of like a scandalous topic that I'm sure will come up. But you're seeing that present day story play out, but then you're also flashing back to the past, to whenever they were dating, and kind of like leading up to the night that he ended up going to prison, because he insists that he is innocent, but she's like, you're not, I was there, like it was you tried to kill me. So something's gonna come out of it. I don't know. There's also like this other character that's playing a part that was her best friend growing up, her next door neighbor. He was also there that night that she was almost killed, and he is now back in her life because he is actually the vice principal at the school that her son is now going to. So definitely it's one of those things again where I'm like, okay, this kind of seems like it's an obvious thing to what it's going to be, but I know that it's not going to be obvious. I've seen a handful of people talking about this book just like here and there in like monthly wrap-ups and stuff, and I've had a ton of people totally recommend it, but I've also seen a handful of people say that this one was kind of like slow for them, and that, you know, it took up until the plot twist, and like there's one singular sentence in this book that made it jump up for them and be like one of their favorite Freida McFadden books. Apparently the plot twist is just crazy, so kind of waiting for that. This one is a lot like slower so far than her other books. It's way less thrillery. It's not as much of like a psychological thriller. It kind of feels like in a way that I'm almost reading like a bit of a romance story, because you are seeing that past timeline and like them sort of fall in love and whatnot, and then her present day story of her just being like a single mom and kind of reconnecting with this other guy. Like, it doesn't feel super thrillery yet, but I have a feeling it's gonna pick up pace, you know, and be good. I'm definitely interested in it and what's gonna happen, so gonna keep on going. Okay guys, we need to talk about The Inmate. I finished it last night and I've been processing it all day, and honestly, the longer I'm processing it, the more I just disliked it. It was not for me. Honestly, I thought the overall like pacing and structure of the story was really odd. I really thought, based on the cover, based on the beginning of the book, I thought that the vast majority of the story was going to take place in the prison. Like, I thought it was going to be those types of vibes where she's like stuck in this prison, you know, forced proximity. I thought there was going to be some like creepy stuff happening with like the inmates. Like, there would be a lot of different, you know, characters involved with that. Like, I thought that's what it was going to be, but so little of the story was actually at the prison. So little of it. I mean, that was barely even part of the story. But, you know, like I said, you have these like alternating timelines. You've got the ex-boyfriend that's the father of her child that is an inmate in this prison that tried to kill her back in the day. And, you know, they're reuniting now because she is the nurse at the prison. And so you have that, and then you have this other guy that she's friends with, reuniting with also. So like there's those stories going on, and then also the past timeline where you're like slowly putting together what happened that night, and it's way more than you think it's gonna be. Like, you know that he attempted to, you know, kill her, or someone attempted to kill her, but like that night is just like crazy. It's like something out of like a cheesy horror film, honestly. It's kind of like a one-by-one situation. Lots of things went down that night, but you know, the story had multiple twists to it, and I just felt like, I'm not even joking, it didn't pick up for me until 70%. Like, the story just felt a lot slower than her other books I've read so far. Every other book we've talked about, I read within 24 hours. Like, I started it in the evening and then I had finished it by the next day in the evening. This book took me like 3 or 4 days to get through, because I was just like, I don't know, it just like wasn't gripping me. Like I said, it didn't feel like as much of a thriller, and until 70% I was just kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of slow, it's not what I thought it was gonna be. But at 70% it really like ramped up, and I was like, oh crap, like oh my god, okay, like this is what's happening. And so there were multiple twists to it, and I will say, I think there were like 3 twists or so. One of those twists, when it happened, I knew like that was the moment I've seen people talk about on TikTok and stuff. Like, when that one sentence was said and I saw it, I was just like, oh my god. But I mean, without giving anything away, like, I thought that was the final twist. I thought that's what the story was gonna be, and I was shook by it. I was like, oh my gosh, like, tell me more. And then there ended up being like another twist, and that's like not what it was. And I really badly wished that that was what it was, because I thought it was so much better than what it actually was. And the end just got so crazy. Like, I know that it's a thriller, I know it's supposed to be crazy, but this was just so unrealistic. Like, the last 10% of this book, so much happened. It was like one thing after the other, after the other, after the other. It just was like a little bit crazy, and I just felt kind of cheesy for me, and by the end I was just like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it definitely, again, it's got the twist, you get shocked and stuff, but I just didn't overall like that one very much, and I wouldn't recommend it, honestly. Like, it was fine. I just don't think it compared. The first 3 of her, or 4? Was that the 4th one? I'm like losing track. The first 3 that I read, all just like so much better. And again, it's like I'm looking for a thriller. Like, I want something that hooks me the way the Housemaid did, the way that Ward D did. Like, I want to right away be creeped out and scared, and like, just I like the fast pace, and that's what I feel like I've come to expect out of her after 3 books, and so that one just wasn't that way for me. But you know, I think it might just be a personal thing. They can't all be winners. But the last book I'm gonna read in this reading vlog is The Locked Door. I have no idea what this is about. I'm going into it blind. I just kind of like went on, like, I've seen people mention this, but I don't know anything about it. I just kind of went on her Amazon and was scrolling through and was kind of seeing which one has had the most like reviews, and this one has had a ton. So it looks really popular. I just want to switch up the vibes. I feel like I did like the psych ward, and then the infirmary, kind of similar, and then Never Lie was like about a psychiatrist also. So I mean, this could be about that too. I don't know, but it just looked like a different vibe. There were lots of different options. I think I'm definitely gonna do like another one of these videos where I read like another 5 of her books. There are seriously so many to choose from. And I was asking on my Instagram for people to give me recommendations if they've read her books, and I was just overwhelmed. So just gonna go with this one, and we'll work our way through the rest eventually. But yeah, once again, y'all know the drill. I'll get started and I will come back when I have a little synopsis to give you. Okay guys, I am 100 pages into The Locked Door, about 1/3 of the way through, and I am really liking this one so far. The vibes are just very different. It kind of reminds me of like Dexter in a way. It reminds me of something that I've seen before, but I can't quite put my finger on it. But pretty much it follows this woman that works as a surgeon. She is single. She's chosen to live her life that way because she has a very dark past that has kind of like followed her, and she just knows that she's better off alone, basically. Her crazy past is that she grew up as an only child, and she had this father that was very sort of gruff. He was working all the time. He wasn't very nice to her or her mother, but what she remembers the most about him is that he had this sort of office within the basement of their house, and the door was always locked. She never got to go down there. That was like an off-limits sort of space for her, and he was just always down there like at night, and she would always hear things going on down there, but she just thought he was working on projects, whatever. Long story short, her father ended up being convicted of a lot of murders. He was a really notorious serial killer that he actually, he got the nickname the Handyman because he murdered like a lot of women over the years, and his sort of like, what's that called whenever it's like their sign or the thing that they do every single time, he would sever their hands. So they would always kind of have brown hair, blue eyes, and their hands would be chopped off. And so he got away with this for a long time, but eventually he was convicted, and her mother as well got charged for being an accessory to murder. So literally both of her parents ended up in jail. Her father is still in jail many years later now that she's a grown adult. He's serving like 18 consecutive life sentences, and her mother actually committed suicide in prison. So she has had a very rough life. Very, very traumatic, wants to really distance herself from what she went through as a child. She's changed her last name. She's a doctor now. Just wants to like help people and make something of herself and not be associated with her father, basically. But the narrator is really interesting, like seeing things from her point of view, because you are seeing her life and her story sort of present day, but you're also flashing back to the past and kind of seeing glimpses of her childhood, kind of putting the pieces together of, you know, her seeing that like kind of weird things were going on with her dad, and always being so curious about the locked door to the basement and all of that. But she's kind of giving me vibes like she's an unreliable narrator. You can tell that she's trying to act like she has no similarities to her dad and that she's totally normal and well-adjusted, but also in her mind you can see that like some things are not quite right, and maybe she has like some of those, you know, tendencies her father might have. But I don't know, it's just like interesting. I feel like I can't trust her, but I also want to root for her. I just don't know what to think yet. But basically what's like happening now, present day, is she has reconnected with this guy. He's working as a bartender, and she actually dated him for a little while she was in college. And so they're sort of reconnecting, but she's not a relationship person, doesn't really want to have anything with him, but they are sort of like hanging out again. And then she actually has been approached by the police very randomly. They've come to her doctor's office and asked her about a patient that she had previously that she performed surgery on. And she's like, why are you asking me about her? Like, I haven't seen her in months, since her post-op appointment. And it turns out that she actually was found dead. And she was found dead, more specifically killed, murdered in the very specific way that her father used to murder people. She was found without her hands. She has the same dark eyes, or dark hair and blue eyes that her father used to go after. And so it's very odd. It's a very weird coincidence, and her father is definitely still in jail. So how, you know, it certainly isn't him. So yeah, that's kind of like where the story has left off. That is what this book is about. So yeah, I have no idea at this point what's gonna happen. I think there's like a million possible avenues. Like, I don't know if, again, maybe the narrator, like the way that she's recounting things to us is not quite reality. Like, I just don't know yet. So very excited to continue. And I like the vibes of this one. I feel like it's a bit of a switch up. It's a little bit different from the other ones that I've read so far. And I'm always a fan of an unreliable narrator. I love when I'm just like not sure who to trust, or if what I'm reading is real. Like, that always gets me really excited. So yeah, gonna keep on going. We'll probably finish this one tonight because I gotta know what happens. Okay guys, I just finished The Locked Door and I really loved this one. The story, like I said, was just so different. There were so many like moving parts to this and different threads involved, and there were just so many different possibilities for what could have been going on. And the entire time I was just like, who is it? Like, what is this? It doesn't make sense. Like, I just, like, every possibility was running through my mind. And because this is the 5th Freida McFadden book I've read in a row, like, I really was trying to kind of figure it out and, you know, check for the signs. But she's just so good at like misdirecting you and making you think every single person in the story is like a possible suspect, or just like all the possibilities are on the table. So I am proud to say I kind of like figured out who it was. Like, at the last second I was like, wait, I feel like it's this person, and I was right. But there was still like a massive plot twist to it that I had no idea was coming, and it was just really good. I really liked this one. Definitely a lot better than the last one I read, The Inmate. It was just good. I really liked it. So yeah guys, those are the 5 Freida McFadden books that I've read in the last like week or so. I had so much fun doing this. I totally plan to read way more books from her. I'll probably take like, I don't know, a couple of weeks and try to read some different authors, but I'll probably do another one of these videos because this was honestly fun to just kind of like check in with you guys. I do want to kind of give a ranking. I feel like it's difficult for me. For sure, The Housemaid was the best one I've read by far. Like, that one just knocked my socks off. The best thriller that I've read so far. The Inmate for sure was the worst to me. Like, it wasn't bad. I feel like I'm being dramatic. It wasn't bad. I kind of posted that I had read it on my Instagram story, and I've had a few people kind of message me about it. I feel like it's kind of, I don't know, people either really like that one or they don't like it. It's kind of like a, what's the word? Not controversial, polarizing. It's like a polarizing type of book. So Housemaid number 1, Inmate number 5. I think I'm kind of between this one and Ward D for the second one, but I think I have to go with Ward D just because it was so thrilling. Like, it was so psychologically messing with my head. Like, I was scared of Ward D. Like, from the first page I was just like, oh crap. It was just so creepy, and I just felt like I was going a little bit insane reading it. I really liked it, so I think I'm gonna have to go with that one for my second place. This one, The Locked Door, I'm gonna go with for third. I just really liked it. And then fourth, I'll go with Never Lie. I really liked Never Lie, but I don't know why I don't feel like I liked it as much as other people liked it. I think the ending was just, and like what it ended up being was just not what I thought it was gonna be. So I don't know, it was still very good. Every single one of these was very good. I would recommend, you know, any of these, honestly. Like, I think you could read any of them and not be disappointed. But yeah, that's my definitive ranking so far of Freida McFadden's books. I'm definitely excited to try more. If you guys have read any of hers that you love, let me know down below. And like I said, I'll probably do a part 2 of this video. And if you guys have any suggestions of like other authors, other, you know, types of videos like this that you'd like to see, where I read kind of like multiple books of the same author or the same sort of genre, let me know. I definitely want to do a video soon. I've literally been talking about this forever, where I read like a couple of very sad books in one reading vlog. I think that would be kind of fun, for lack of a better word to use. But yeah guys, that is it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you very soon. Bye.